Stop motion is simultaneously one of the most spectacular and most terrifying forms of animation. It's had a long history in film, with 1897's The Humpty Dumpty Circus being the first piece of stop motion ever created, but which has sadly been lost to time. Since then, stop motion has slowly become a staple of entertainment, beginning as a gimmick for aspiring artists to play around with, transitioning into a special effects tool that stitched together smooth and lifelike stop motion animation with live action footage to stun audiences, and eventually being molded into an art form all of its own for artists and creatives to explore, such as Nick Park, creator of the Wallace and Gromit series, whose work in Aardman Animations has gotten him 6 Academy Award nominations, 4 of which he won, and who, alongside Peter Lord, directed Chicken Run, currently the highest grossing stop motion animated film of all time. It's a medium that's always tempted artists to try their hand and see what they can do with this tactile trade. And while it has its benefits, it also has its challenges. Like all forms of animation, it's incredibly tedious, delicate, and time-consuming work.
And come up, go into the eyes to bring them round some more. Tiny amount. This finger. A tiny.
But when compared to 2D or 3D, which require an extensive knowledge of specific kinds of programs or, well, the ability to draw, the bar to entry for stop motion seems rather low. Or at least that's how it seems to me. All you need is a camera, a basic editing software, and something to animate. And with the increasing ease of access we have to sites and platforms that allow us to learn these crafts, share our creations, and connect with like-minded creators, it's no surprise that stop motion has boomed online, with people using pretty much anything they can get their hands on to create something fantastic. Hey, where'd you find that? However, unlike 2D or 3D, there's no safety net. You don't have any keyframes to guide the animation, no eraser or Control-Z to undo a mistake. And if you do mess up somehow, either by positioning a model wrong or, God forbid, knocking something over, you have to start all over again. To quote Travis Knight, lead animator for many of LINKZ Studios' films, because you effectively get one opportunity to get it right, every shot is a high-wire act. It's a problem that's made worse by the amount of strings that need to be pulled to put together each frame of these films. Whether it be the at times hundreds of animators, designers and builders working round the clock behind the scenes, or the thousands of painfully slow moving pieces that go into bringing each puppet and set to life at a snail's pace. These productions are massive undertakings that for many are a daunting commitment. None of this is helped by stop motion's rather off-putting aesthetic. I'm not the first to notice that stop motion can be kinda creepy. In fact, many creators working with it seem to have realized this a while ago, given the amount of dark or horror themed films and shorts that go out of their way to exploit this aspect of the medium rather than shy away from it. And I guess it shouldn't be much of a surprise given that one of the earliest stop motion hits came from someone animating dead beetles with wire legs, because live ones were too difficult to work with. There's just something about the movements that seems so mechanical, something about the textures that makes your skin crawl, something about the designs that just doesn't seem right. It all feels so weird, so eerie, so uncanny. And it's in that valley that I think the heart of this issue lies. The Uncanny Valley, as we know it today, is a concept that was outlined in 1970 by Masahiro Mori, a Japanese roboticist, in an essay called Bukimi no Tani, and originally published in a Japanese journal called Energy. Mori proposes the idea that the more human-like a machine's design is, the more positively we will respond to it, until it becomes almost human but not quite, at which point the subtle imperfections in the machine's appearance will make it seem eerie or even repulsive, a feeling that is amplified when movement is involved. But once the design and motion appears perfectly human, we will react positively to it again. That dip into negativity is what has become known as the Uncanny Valley. In the essay, Mori argues that when designing human-like machines, it's best to aim for something that would fall around or before that first peak. Though it initially garnered little attention, with the rapid development of robotics technology and computer-generated imagery, the Uncanny Valley has quickly become a prominent idea in mainstream culture. There's been a lot of discussion and debate surrounding it, especially in the scientific community, about what causes it, how one's exposure to these sorts of technologies or lack thereof can affect one's experience with it, what conditions are necessary to cause it, or if it even exists at all. But recent findings show that the Uncanny Valley may be a result of a perceptual mismatch. We start to develop these feelings towards something when it is given attributes we don't expect to see, such as a cartoon character with oddly realistic eyes, or a realistic 3D model moving in very mechanical ways. The Uncanny Valley is a result of us being uncomfortable with seeing things looking and acting in ways we think they shouldn't be, a feeling that becomes more intense the more familiar we are with the subject in question, such as, well, ourselves. for truly, who else could we be more familiar with? With the increasing awareness of the concept, more and more people have jumped in to have their say on it, including those with criticisms of the idea and the debate surrounding it. The original essay wasn't properly translated into English until 2012, so most of the discussion up to that point was based on imprecise or even incorrect wording, including the use of the word uncanny. The essay itself is quite broad and anecdotal, and so it's been difficult to research properly, though that may be the point given that, as Mori pointed out in an interview following the release of the official translation, it was more a piece of advice from me to people who design robots rather than a scientific statement. There's also a problematic implication that comes with it that anyone who looks or acts or moves out of the norm could be considered inherently uncanny, something that's especially concerning for those with neurological or motor issues, for whom such things are usually out of their control. Not to mention the trend of people using it as a be-all end-all explanation for anything that's scary or creepy or weird, without digging any deeper into the things they're talking about to see if there are any other explanations. But it's this phenomenon that I think perfectly describes why stop motion is so hard to watch for some. It blends together elements of animation and live action in ways that are simply unnerving. Firstly, there's a nightmare situation that comes with watching dolls move on their own.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
As Henry Selick, director of The Nightmare Before Christmas and Coraline, puts it, stop motion can bring anything to life, including dead-looking things and broken things. There's something about its twitchy motion that, combined with the right design and lighting, can really raise the hairs on one's neck. There's a certain dread that comes from seeing these inanimate things brought to life that makes us question what it means to be alive, to be conscious, to be human, and whether the only difference between us and these manufactured models is just the materials that stitch us together. The models and puppets made for many stop-motion works are usually the kinds of cartoony caricatures that fit right at home in 2D or 3D, but they often look odd when brought into reality. In Fox, the stop-motion short about a young girl kidnapped by, well, foxes, the models well and truly feel like dolls, with big heads sitting on thin bodies with wide eyes and tiny mouths that are just expressionless, having the sort of dead-eyed look that cuts right through the screen. This is especially clear with the human models, which feel too coarse and gritty to be dolls, but also too shiny and smooth to be people. Ironically, the foxes, which expressly lean on a more unrealistic design, end up feeling more natural. And for as much as I love the Wallace and Gromit series, their claymation forms are kinda terrifying. They also suffer from that dead-eyed glare, and their cartoony designs have a level of detail to their textures that makes their exaggerated features uncomfortable to watch. Especially Gromit's, no offense buddy. The caricature-like designs used for animation can often become grotesque when given the physical depth and detail inherent to stop motion. This is amplified by the movements of these puppets and models. The type of motion we accept in other forms of animation are given an odd sense of unreality in stop motion, as the level of abstraction that comes from watching drawings or polygons move is lost when watching what we know to be real objects do so. In Cat with the Hands, an old man tells a young man the story of a cat that steals human body parts so that it can become human. Aside from the cat's horrifying design, the scariest part of the short comes from the movements of the animated section. Whether it be the impossibly smooth way the cat licks its hands or catches a bird, or the jumpy movements it exhibits as it feasts on its prey. The way it moves is unnatural. Similarly, in Sandman, we watch a young boy on his way to bed preyed upon by the titular Sandman. Whilst the movements of the boy and the mother are a touch jerky and imprecise, the Sandman seem almost too perfect by comparison, and it gives this character an otherworldly feeling that magnifies the danger he poses to the boy, who's blissfully unaware of the monster looming in the shadows. Even Anomalisa uses these quirks to highlight the distress that its main character, Michael, goes through in his day-to-day life, as due to severe mental troubles, he begins to question the reality of the world he lives in. The quirks of movement and animation, whether they be the jumpy aesthetic of its frame-by-frame nature or the impossibly smooth finish of digitally composed works, becomes unnatural when used to animate physical things. In a sense, stop motion falls into an uncanny valley of its own between animation and live action, containing elements of both that mix in such a way that is, well, uncanny. It's stuck with a foot in both worlds and a place in neither. And that's not a bad thing. In fact, it's what makes it so unique as a medium. Most stop-motion films revel in this valley, either by, as mentioned before, exploiting that inherent creep factor to amplify the feelings of dread and disgust they want to draw out of you, or by using it to give their work a distinct visual flair that stands out from the more clean-cut productions we're accustomed to. The Nightmare Before Christmas combines a dark and gothic style with the unnatural movements and oddly grotesque designs and tactility of stop motion to make its world of horror feel strikingly and ironically vibrant. Meanwhile, Fantastic Mr. Fox gives this adaptation of the classic children's book by Rodell a gorgeous golden glow.
Maybe it's the lighting.
The odd jerky movements of the puppet's animation serves to emphasize the strong rustic quality to the movie's tone, as if it's all come out of an old toy box, and when seen through some obsessively symmetrical framing, it gives the film the whimsical atmosphere of an old storybook, which, all things considered, is pretty fitting. The aesthetic of stop motion complements and even strengthens the style of the works that use it. In that same vein, stop motion's place as both live action and animation lets it blur the line between the two. Kubo and the Two Strings is an enthralling adventure riddled with supernatural threats whose incredible imagery and animation only emphasizes its emotional impact. But for as fantastical an experience as it may be, it's always grounded for me by the realization that almost everything in it has been made by someone. From each and every hair on each of the characters' heads to the 20-foot tall model they built for that damn skeleton, nearly every detail was handmade, and it's honestly just amazing to realize how much time and effort went into building it all from the ground up. It gives this mythical world a sense of reality. And Anomalisa, for as painfully mundane as this premise may seem, expertly uses its medium to give it a dreamlike atmosphere. From the bright warm lights reflecting off of the soft, smooth surfaces of everything in the film, to the surreal and at times nightmarish twists we see through Michael's eyes, which all melds together into something that's easy to lose yourself in.
The screenings I've gone to and the people I've had the opportunity to talk to that haven't worked on this project, they were, for a while they would forget they're watching puppets, and it's humbling to be part of that.
Stop motion blends together fantasy and reality in such a way that no other medium can. What makes stop motion creepy is also what makes it so amazing. And yeah, those are my thoughts. I'm coming back to make the videos again. Also, sorry if you hear weird thumping noises, my neighbor's just doing construction outside. It's the whole thing. I've decided to focus more so on monthly, longish form video essays, talking about basically whatever. For as fun as those short weekly videos are to make, I want to focus on and give myself the time to create stuff that I think is worth making, and actually has something to say, beyond, hey, I like this thing because XYZ. Though I do have an idea for a series that would still continue that kind of format, but still. Anyway, let me know what you think. If you agree, disagree, how you feel about stop motion animation, why your favorite stop motion film is. For me, it's a tie between Coraline and Paranorman, etc. And thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this and want to see more, then be sure to like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe to come fly with me. You can also follow me on Twitter for more updates about this channel and other stuff, and hopefully, I'll see you later.